This is the Ask Accelytics supply chain panel. And today our topic is comparing the Agile versus the Lean supply chain planning strategies. So first we'll start off by defining what the various methods are and then going into the differences and comparing them against each other. So first, a quick introduction of our Accelytics team. I'm Chris Loudit, and with me here today are our supply chain subject matter experts, Matt Russell and Mike Lovitt. Last week, we talked about how businesses can use Anaplan to analyze various operational scenarios and select the one that makes the most sense to execute on. So this week, we've got a new topic. We'll talk about these common supply chain planning strategies and where and when to consider using them. The first thing is the lean supply chain strategy. So lean supply chain strategy, it's an approach that's focused on eliminating waste, minimizing inefficiencies, and optimizing processes to achieve maximum efficiency and cost effectiveness. It aims to streamline every aspect of the supply chain to deliver products or services to customers with the least amount of waste, excess inventory, and non-value added activities. The key principles of a lean supply chain include: one, identifying and eliminating waste, such as excess inventory, overproduction, waiting times, transportation inefficiencies, unnecessary motion, and defects. Secondly, implementing a culture of continuous improvement to regularly identify and address inefficiencies in processes. Also establishing standardized processes and best practices to minimize variations and improve consistency. That's something that we at Accelytics are always right in the midst of by standardizing and improving best practices. Optimizing the use of resources, including labor, materials, time, and equipment. And then using a pull-based approach where production and inventory are determined by actual customer demand rather than forecasted estimates. Delivering products or components exactly when needed, reducing the need for excess inventory and storage. And then reducing the complexity of the supply chain by focusing on core processes and suppliers. So with the Agile methodology, it's a completely different philosophy. So the strategy is an approach focused on flexibility, responsiveness, adaptability. This does allow you to meet rapidly changing customer demands and market conditions. It prioritizes the ability to quickly adjust production, distribution, and processes in response to shifts in the market. The key principles of an agile supply chain include: number one, flexibility, building the capacity to quickly change production plans, suppliers, and distribution methods to respond to changing customer needs and market trends. Also establishing strong communication and collaboration channels within the supply chain to share information and respond effectively to changes. Thirdly is rapid decision-making, empowering teams to make quick decisions at various levels of the organization to address disruptions and seize opportunities. The next one is tailoring products and services to meet specific customer demands, even if it requires variations in production or distribution. Also, risk management. So we need to implement strategies to identify and mitigate risks when we're using the Agile approach. These are things such as supply disruptions, demand fluctuations, and even geopolitical or weather-related events. And then, so for diverse suppliers, it's having multiple suppliers and partners to ensure a diversified sourcing base and reduce dependency on a single source. And lastly, adaptive planning, which is emphasizing the short-term planning and adjusting strategies based on real-time market feedback. Not easy to do all this, but utilizing Anaplan systems, you can approach either of these strategies and methodologies and make a custom, unique solution that delivers on these tactics and strategies. What are the differences, and compare and contrast side by side? So Michael's going to help me on this part. I guess you go over from the lean approach, and then I'll do the counterpoint on the Agile approach and try to highlight the differences.
In these two variations, the lean supply chain strategy aims to eliminate waste and streamline your processes for high levels of efficiency and cost effectiveness. A lot of times you'll see this referred to as just in time. It seeks to minimize your inventory and reduce your lead times and enhance your overall operational efficiency.
And then in contrast to that, the Agile approach really is based on flexibility and being able to respond. And, so that's why it's prioritizing the adaptability, quick decision-making, and it's it allows you to turn on a dime. Whereas with lean methodologies, you're more You're more centered on a specific process. Okay, so the next one is inventory management.
Okay, so when it comes to inventory management, the lean philosophy aims to reduce your excess inventory, and you only carry what is absolutely necessary to meet your customer demand. This enables you to reduce your carrying cost and reduces your risk of having overstock or inventory that is just taking up space in your warehouse.
Yes, and so exactly. And so with Agile, the approach is different. You're given the flexibility to hold more inventory at times, and this allows you to really, maybe improve your customer service. So if you're in an industry where your customer service levels are critical, you probably would lean towards an Agile approach more when it comes to inventory management. If you're not in that type of an industry, the lean approach is probably preferred because you'll run a more efficient and you'll minimize your actual operating costs. The next one is for production and process design.
Okay, so when it comes to production and your process design, a lean strategy enables you to focus on your processes to eliminate your bottlenecks, reduce variation, and improve your overall efficiency. This means you have to standardize and streamline your processes in order to get a highly efficient production process.
And then similarly, with the prior two focus points, the Agile is going to emphasize the ability to adapt, to change on the fly, to make, to respond to things that are happening in the market. A lot of things, as we've seen in the past, few years with pandemics and other world events happening, and things shifting, this Agile approach can really come in handy when you're talking about production. So that's one of the main differences between the two. Okay, the next one is lead time.
So lead time, this actually kind of daisies off of your production processes. So by having an efficient process, you reduce your lead times, which helps you fulfill your customer orders faster and improve your overall efficiency.
Yeah, and again, similarly, the Agile approach also it has the same goal to reduce lead times, but this is more by quickly adapting. And the difference here is more about the type of industry than just one approach being better than another. So this may work in some cases to use Agile. In some cases, it may be better to use Lean. It'll just depend on the specific situation. Normally, when we do a deployment during our design phase, we'll look at the different options and determine from our past experience what is the best methodology to use in any given situation. But everyone is unique, so it's not something you decide up front. Okay, then customer focus.
So when it comes to customer focus, a lean approach focuses on delivering a consistent, and that again goes back to your production process design and setup. But you want to deliver consistent, high quality products to meet your customer demand at a stable pace. So this is, I don't want to say very rigid, but is somewhat rigid because you want to keep your production processes fairly static.
Yeah, and in certain cases, the Agile approach would be better. Like for example, if you're selling to supermarkets and you've got a lot of customers, you need to keep your service levels high and your products stocked. So the Agile method understands this need to serve the customers and to be adaptable and quick to respond. Okay, so one more is risk management.
So when it comes to risk management, the lean strategy can be somewhat more vulnerable to disruptions due to its rigidity, especially because you're trying to minimize your carrying inventory. So any supply chain disruptions or delivery disruptions can have a very significant impact on the business.
Yeah, and I think those supply chain disruptions that you alluded to have had a big effect over the last several years, and a lot of companies and systems are evolving towards an Agile methodology because of that. So, taking a little bit of a break from the rigid systemic processes of the lean methods and allowing for some flexibility to meet all these unpredictable disruptions that are actually occurring, over the last few years in our supply chains globally.
Well, I think a good example of that was 2020 during the pandemic, the disruptions that happened, and it took numerous businesses, 2 years to kind of get back on their feet and get their supply chains back in order or back the way they were pre-pandemic.
Exactly. Okay, I guess now we can answer our panel questions. I believe we've got some of them ready to go.
Yeah, reviewing this, does an agile approach require an organization to increase their investment in a sourcing team? I know sourcing members or quality sourcing team members are difficult to find. Is this going to increase my need to find those people?
So it can. So whenever you're doing supply chain projects and you're adding new processes, there's going to be some resources required. It's not necessarily the fact that one methodology would require more resources than the other, because we can put together solutions in Anaplan for lean or agile approach with the same amount of efficiency. The efficiency in creating these solutions and business processes rests on top of the platform that Anaplan is. So I think that's a good question about how would I plan, to operate with, considering costs with the lean or agile approach. But it's really using Anaplan, you're really going to end up spending about the same amount of money to put in a process, whether it's one or the other.
All right. So I as a supply chain organization, Chris, do I need to be lean or agile to think about adopting already? Do I already have to be leaning in one camp or the other?
No, I think in our experience at Accelytics, most of our customers are usually using a hybrid approach. And so there's no need to pick a philosophy. These lean and agile methodologies are really just, I would say, a summary of all the common points or the common ways that companies do their business. And it's more of an explanation. It's not necessarily something that companies are saying, okay, we're going to go agile and then everything we do will be based on agile versus lean. It's generally a hybrid approach based on what best solves every specific problem and situation.
Michael, don't we have to determine lean or agile tactics prior to actually starting the user stories in an Anaplan implementation? Don't we have to at least have an idea if we're going to go with lean or agile tactics for an implementation?
Well, I mean, we do have to have somewhat of an idea, right? I mean, we have to know kind of what we want to build out originally, but it's not set in stone. Anaplan is very customizable. It's easy to go back in and add triggers or other features that could allow you to hybridize a lean/agile approach. But you can also start out with maybe like an inventory management. You want to have more of a lean approach, but when it gets to your customer focus, you want more of an agile approach. And the good thing about Anaplan is because it is customizable and we build to the customer, to the client's needs, we can initially build out and come back in later and make changes if necessary, if the thought process of the business changes.
Yeah, and I think I agree with both of you guys too, that it's you make the decision like once you're at the point of that design, like once you're doing the user stories, that's when when it becomes obvious where which way to go.
Can I say I've got I'm a business with a wide product offering. I've got a rather large tail. Can I tell you that I want you to plan 80%, my bottom 80% revenue products or plan those with a lean methodology, and I only want to use my top 20% items to manage in an agile methodology?
I think so. I think you can do that. I haven't had a lot of clients that have actually done it that way, but I don't see any major reason why not. If you had a separate process it's not uncommon to have a separate process, but I haven't really seen them be like for the tail versus for the high earning items. But it is something that we address a lot, I don't see any reason why you couldn't address one with a separate philosophy than the other.
Thank you guys very much. I enjoyed listening to you today.
So I guess that's the bulk of the presentation. So we have a YouTube channel where we're posting all of our webinars, and we've recently added a lot of content. And so we've got a lot of fresh stuff in there, and we've got some upcoming topics, which we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks. So there's risk management and resilience in supply chains. There's blockchain, which is a really fascinating concept to talk about. And then there's also supply chain analytics and big data on our list of topics. So if anybody wants to make a comment and let us know some other topic that they'd be interested in, we'd be happy to address it and take a stab at it for you. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.